All right, so I have my snowman all covered with snow now. This is his face. You can see it's a little more sparkly. The back is just the core. The face is a little more of the snow on it. And because I have the snow felted all the way around, those weird side things that were there are also all covered up and felted down. So the first thing I'm going to do in terms of getting the rest of the snowman done is I'm going to make the hat. And I make the hat first because it very clearly helps define where the face is going to be. The hat, typically what I do is I have a brim of the hat and then the hat itself. You can do these in the same color, you can do them in different colors, whatever suits. But you can, I'll show you how I typically make the brim. I like my brim, actually for me this is a very narrow brim. I like my brims to be a little fuzzier and bigger. I'm going to make this particular snow person have a brim out of the white fluffy snow fiber. So I have this piece, it's about, I don't know, about 6 inches long. I know I'm going to need it to be, if I hold it around the head, I know I'm going to need it to be just a wee bit longer for it to overlap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, hold it in both of my hands like this, and very gently I'm going to pull on it until it's a little bit longer and until it's a pretty even in terms of the thickness. All right, so you can see that's just a little bit longer, but when I put it around my snowman's head now, I've got plenty of an overlap here that it'll work out. Okay, so now because I want this to be really fluffy, like a fur brim, I'm not going to do a whole lot of felting. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to rub it in between my hands, roll it a little bit just to kind of almost pre-felt it a little bit. So by rubbing it, I give it a little more substance, a little more solidity. Compact the fibers just a wee bit. My hands are too dry. I should have put a little lotion on. But now you can see how much less fluffy that is. All right, now, this is his face. So the middle of my brim, I'm going to put at the top of his face. And I'm going to just take it all the way around to the bottom of the head like this. And then in the back, it's going to be right at the bottom of the head, right at the neck. And I'm going to overlap these two like this. And then I'm going to use my fine needle. Let me find it. Hold on. Here it is. I'm using my fine needles, the one with the spiral. And I'm just going to very gently poke at the very, very top of my brim here. And I'm going to very gently poke around. I'm not doing much. I'm just basically kind of tacking it in place. Notice how I use the needle to kind of put the fiber where I want it as I'm doing this. Now I'm going to go around the bottom part. Again, just I'm barely even poking into the fibers. I just want this tacked into place. All right, so there's my brim. All right, now I'm going to take this color. And again, I'm going to do the same idea where I'm going to grab it by the fuzzy parts and I'm going to pull it, but this time I'm going to pull a couple pieces. All right, so you can see I have a pretty decent amount of fiber there. All right, now I'm going to take this, I'm going to let the fuzzy part stick down over top of my brim. And I'm not using my fine needle now, I'm using my stronger needle. And I'm going to poke that teal right in along the edge of where my brim is. being careful not to go up onto the brim, but getting it right in that crease right here between the head and the brim. Then what I'll do is I'll fold this back and then tack that down. But first I'm going to do this all the way around. So I'm going to pull a couple more pieces. Put it here. Again, let it stick down. Tack it in right along that edge. And I'm going to do that probably 3 or 4 more times to get the whole head covered. I'm going to get a little more up here where there's a bit of a bald spot. There we go. Okay. I think I could do one more and that should cover it. All right. All right, so that's quite the look, isn't it? All right, I'm going to use my fine needle here because I don't want to be doing too much poking where I don't want to. Do you see how I'm going to use that needle and I'm going to tuck that fuzzy edging up, and then very gently I'm going to poke right below, so that I'm poking right into that crease between my brim and the head. And I'm going to do that all the way around. That way I can make sure that there's no gap between the brim of the hat and the actual hat itself. Like here, you can see how there's a bit of a gap in here. So I'm going to make sure that as I do this, I poke the fibers down into that gap so that it all is filled in. You want to make sure as you're doing this that you get all the fibers up off your brim, because you don't want the fibers from the one color to bleed into the other color. And again, I use my needles to help me with that. If I try to use my fingers, I end up grabbing more than what I need. But if I just take the needles and very gently pull it around, see just a teeny little bit. I don't know if you can see that. Let me dim the light. There we go. Teeny little bit of the fibers in the wrong place, and you can really have that show up. So you want to be very meticulous about making sure that you get all of your hat fiber up off the brim. Now I've got what looks like a troll doll. Now for this one, I actually felted it so that I put it all the way up like that to make a goofy little stocking hat kind of look. But what I typically do, and this time I'm not using my fine needle, I'm using my more heavy-duty needle. And what I typically do is I'll take this and I'll just swish it, and then I just felt it all down like this. And by putting those little curly cues in it as you go, by putting the little twists in it, it looks more like a knitted hat that way. It gives it some texture, and you don't have all those straight lines from the fiber. Instead, it looks like it's a piece of cloth. And sometimes I felt this a little more tightly than others. But I'm just going to do just a wee little bit like this. And I'll felt that down a little bit more until I get it looking the way I want it to. And then we'll come back and we'll work on the face.